been to Hastings and I've been to Brighton, I've been to Eastbourne too. So what? And I've been here and I've been there. And I've been fucking everywhere.
I saw them up at Brixton in 1982. I saw the league then, we're hooked ever since that day.
They're fucking good because they piss people off, and that's what it's about. And the Anti-Nowhere League are the best at pissing people off.
So what, you boring little cunt.
They're local heroes, so it's a homage.
Well, who cares? Who cares what you do? Yeah, who cares? Who cares about you?
I've been a league fan since the early days, 81. It's that fuck off attitude I loved. Today, they've still got that attitude.
But the Anti-Nowhere League, for a fucking reason, we hate every cunt.
Well, I fuck the Queen. I fuck Bath. I've even sucked an old man's cock.
So fucking what?
And I fucked a sheep, I fucked a goat, I ran my cock right down its throat.
I started the Anti-Nowhere League as a name, but you know, without Nick, it would not have got further than Tunbridge Wells' first bottom of the row. You know, it was purely Nick and my brains together created this sort of image and everything else about the Anti-Nowhere League that has carried on to this day, really.
To go around the world, to play to the audiences, to get paid for the privilege, to get women chucking themselves at you and people giving me drugs and drink. It don't get any better than that, does it? I mean, how many people to get that chance? You don't, do you? So, yeah, it was good. It was very, very good.
Local people, like your mates of Tunbridge Wells who we grew up with, they all backed us. We sort of flew the flag for a lot of people who just said, get out there, son, do it, go on, get out there. You felt like you was an ambassador for your rogue friends.
It was a real fun 18 months to 2 years from the day that I put them on to the Lyceum. It was non-stop madness, really.
Anti-Nowhere League is one of those bands that just exploded like a star, and the ripple will carry on forever.
Nobody gives a fuck anymore.
There's not a band around today that's got the balls to even stand up and say, you know what, I think you're all cunts and I'm going to take the piss out of you. There's no one. It's dead. We need that attitude to sustain, to survive.
Tunbridge Wells always had a reputation of being the expensive place to live, best place to school your kids, conservative, sort of like respectable town, and it's not true.
Tunbridge Wells is known to be a predominantly middle class and upper class area. Really, you've got far more working class and a lot of poverty in Tunbridge Wells, and people realise, to be honest with you.
Tunbridge Wells, you know, that's posh, isn't it? And it's like, actually not all of it. If you've got no money, it's just as fucking tough in Tunbridge Wells as it is in Brixton.
It was a very repressive place to grow up because of the lack of any kind of tolerance.
He doesn't know what it is. You know, it's near London, but it's in a country. They're trying to behave like Londoners, but they're not Londoners, you know, they're just Kentish people, you know?
The rich have to have somebody to take the rubbish out, and that was the Anti-Nowhere League.
There was a great bond between the outcasts of Tunbridge Wells.
Luckily enough, I was brought up on the bad side of town. We were the rough element.
Well, I was born in Tunbridge Wells, but by the age of 4 we moved to Southborough, which is just on the suburbs of Tunbridge Wells. There's this big area called the playing fields where all the kids used to play. And we lived one side, and Nick lived on the other side of the playing fields, which is the other side of the village. And I mean, living there was fantastic, really.
I grew up on this flagship estate. The Woolly Road estate was modern living for council tenants. Once you're on a council estate, you've got to work really hard to get out of it. You pretty much are bred for road sweeping or bricklaying.
I was lucky. I was brought up in a cottage that my old man got as a part of the job. He was a printer, my old man, and it was a tied cottage that went with the job. So I didn't live on council estates, but I had lots of mates that lived on council estates, and there was always that, you know, like drunk blokes beating their kids and beating their wives.
That was the house I was brought up in, over there, number 35. My bedroom was just above the front door, and as a 3 or 4 year old kid, I used to climb out the window, drop down off that sill and sit onto the concrete ledge above the front door. That's where I used to sit, watching people, because my mother was never at home, so she didn't think it was unusual a 4 year old kid to be climbing out the top window. She was always working.
My mother was born in Gravesend in Kent. She grew up there during the war, had a lot of brothers and sisters, spent all her time looking after kids. I had 2 older sisters. My mother got fed up with kids time I came along. She wasn't really around. My old man was a bit of a war hero, him and his brothers. He was in Burma, he was in Africa, and he was out in Europe. He got stuck on Dunkirk. He said it was unbelievably bad. My dad was a good bloke, and I loved him dearly. But, you know, he didn't know how to be a father, really. You know, I looked up to him, and he was a tough bloke. He'd be a mate, but he wouldn't have been no guidance. I was literally out on the road on my own, and I found gangs much more family than family life. I'm not going to diss them, because they did what they could.
My dad was the managing director of a decorators merchants, and my mum used to be his secretary. You know, she worked part-time, but she was always around for us. You know, we weren't left on our own or anything. Encouraged us to do whatever we wanted to do. Couldn't ask for more, really, as far as parents go.
I wasn't a very pleasant little kid. Little fat-faced kid with a terrible lisp come out. That one. It was just, you know, always the starting block for the bullies. So would give me a slap and that if I didn't say 6 pennyworth of sausages. And they said, hold me down by cunt or bollocks on my face and things like that, which is normal on a council estate. I learned more from those horrible bastards on the estate than I could have possibly done if they wasn't there. I took myself off to judo, karate, boxing, everything possible to better myself. And then, yeah, I made sure every fucking bully paid. Nobody done that to me.
We had woods nearby, so we were playing in the woods all the time, riding our bikes, push bikes.
There was all these trees that we used to hang out with. We'd say, I'll just meet you over the Pioneers or Old Man Oak. It was better than the council estate. You know, you're pretty much free up there. You could climb trees, you could be yourself without, you know, gangs of kids on the estates giving you grief.
Here he is, the oldest man on the common.
We spent many happy times here, meeting up here. But he's magnificent. If you stand here, you can see his face, that's his eye. And you can see his eye and his eyebrow and his mouth and stuff. It looks straight out of Lord of the Rings, doesn't it? To us, that was magic.
As we grew older, it was the South Baboot Boys, which were the skinhead gang I was in. We were kings of the common.
Oh, I remember being chased by Nick when I was about 11. Yeah, him and his gang, when they came along, you made sure you got out of the way quick, otherwise you'd go with boots. I would never say Nick was a bully. I remember one of his other mates punched me once and Nick goes, "Oh, leave him alone, Chav, you know, not worth it," sort of thing. Thank God for that. He was the leader of his group. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a rocker. When we used to go down to Hastings with my mum and dad in the car, me and my brother would be sitting in the back seat and hear all these loud old Triumph motorcycles coming past. And we'd be looking round at them and Mum would say, "Don't look round at them, don't look round at them." And I was like, "I want to be like that." "No, you don't." "Yes, I do, yes, I do."
I don't think I've ever really looked up to anybody, not tried to emulate anybody or anything like that.
Mother thought I was out of control. She thought a religious sort of all-boys school was going to be the job for a naughty little boy.
Huntley's secondary modern, and that's where I first met Nick.
Winston was a right horrible little shit, he was really. Well, he had to be to go to Huntley's.
I was probably a little bit more wild than most. Probably nowadays they would have said I'd got ADHD or something like that. But in those days you was just like a naughty kid and you got smacked and you got beaten, you know, so. And not only at school, I mean also by my father as well.
The teachers were mental, as they are in most of these religious schools.
It was quite a brutal school, yeah, definitely. If you'd done anything wrong at school, got caught smoking, or you spoke out of turn, you got the cane or the plank or the slipper, and they were some things that would make a grown man cry. They hurt so much. I think corporal punishment's a great thing, to be honest with you, because I mean it makes you a better person in the long run.
I went to Skinner's Grammar School. We used to run away from Huntley's, they used to try and beat us up after school. And this is a daily occurrence.
I think we were just working class boys that never really had much of an education, you know, and it was just, and they were sort of nice boys that come from well-to-do families that was getting a decent education. I think sour grapes in some respects and them being ponces, really.
To know Winston was to love him. He was always on had the cigarettes. He was always the one who had the bottle of drink up his jacket. He was always the one who was up the fish and chip shop at lunchtime. Even from the early days, he was a right rogue.
I got expelled from Huntley's in the second year, and I got put in the care of the local authority for being beyond parents' control. I was sent to a proof school, about 11, 12. And that was quite an odd regime because there was boys there up to the age of 18 from all over the country. I was bullied all the time. I mean, it was a dreadful place. You never got let home. My father would never come and visit me. My mother used to come about once every 2 months. You know, you were sort of left by yourself and in this really, really odd regime. It broke a lot of kids there and all that, you know, and you had kids that were sort of attempted suicide. I started to get into drugs and all that, and I had my first trip on acid when I was about 12. You know, like a tab of microdot then was what people did. Try anything sort of once, but I mean, it didn't sort of stop at once really with me.
I started on the farm around about 11 to 12, I think. Young skinheads, you needed to buy Ben Sherman shirts, you needed to buy stuff. We were cheap labour. We would drive tractors at 11, 12, 13, you know. Little kids couldn't see over the tractors. And we rolled them. Many kids rolled tractors with loaded potatoes up. Help! Fucking tractor rolling sideways. Kid leaping off one side, it was quite normal. How anybody didn't die, I mean, it's just one of the last mysteries.
It was like out of the proof school on the Friday and into full-time employment on the Monday. I come out of there when I was 14 and a half. My old man had got me a job as an apprentice panel beater in a garage. In those days, most blokes had motorbikes and all that, and as my old man had a motorbike. Just got involved with them. It was the first thing I really felt happy with, really.
Skinhead, reggae went hand in hand.
It was weird that we all got into sort of black music because you could understand if you lived in sort of Willesden or
somewhere like that. But sort of Tunbridge Wells in those days was like really unusual for Tunbridge Wells, having a couple of blacks in Tunbridge Wells.
If you was black, you was treated like royalty, really, weren't they?
All the girls wanted a black boyfriend. My sister, she used to go to Lewisham and had a lot of a black boyfriend and that sort of thing. It was just
reggae.
My mum started playing acoustic guitar. I watched her, I thought, oh, I fancy a bit of that. 13 or 14 I started, and I taught myself, really. I idolised Mark Bolan. I loved all the early stuff they did, Get It On, Jeeps to Hot Love. I wanted to start a band, but I could never find anyone who'd have me, so I wasn't good enough.
One of my friends, the Greasers, I saw him with a book, and I just said, what's the book about? He said, oh, it's about Hell's Angels, California Hell's Angels. So I said, well, can I have a read? I read the book inside out, and it just opened the world up to me instead of being in Tunbridge Wells and Southburn. These guys were doing this in California, riding these motorcycles, and they were just outlaws, and they were just, you know, Wild West. And it just, wow, you know, I'm going to do that one day.
Nick was a skinhead up to the age of about 16, and then he got a bike and became a greaser.
I bought his first motorcycle, he had his first bike, and then we all got a little gang together. We were the Tunbridge Wells Rebels.
Winston was in the same gang as well.
on my 17th birthday, luckily I went straight on to an Alton Commando, which was a big bike.
We all had chops. In those days, you didn't buy them like, you know, buy yourself an image. Nowadays, you go to a local shop and they build you something. In the 70s, you had to make everything. You couldn't buy anything.
You had to go around and get your mate to weld a bit up and try and find somebody who could paint that or chrome that. You made it up as you went along.
You'd make them, then you'd go out on the road and it would break, and you'd make it again, weld it a bit stronger and it would break. And it was a process of learning. Everything was. It was great, and it taught you, if you want something, just go out and do it. Just go out and make, you know, if you want to do something, just do it. Try and do it. Even if you fail, have another go until it works. And that was our sort of philosophy, really.
If you wanted to build this magnificent, uncontrollably unrideable pile of fucking shite, then nobody would stop you, innit?
We used to go over Broad Oak Village Hall to local dances.
People
yeah, it was always a thing in those days. You went out to like the villages and places like that. The girls was easy lays, so that's why we used to go there.
We used to go for the fights.
Yeah, but there used to be more. There was more happening in the villages than there was in Tunbridge Wells.
I mean, sometimes I had to take a kicking because if they got into a fight, if you run off, that would have been it. You know, so you had to jump in, and not you could do much, but you jumped in as well. And yeah, it's just that sort of camaraderie that was. I think it was good. It was ground. You know, it sets you up really.
Together, we was a formidable force, and people would like to come along and think they could take you on, but they fucking couldn't.
Bought myself first Harley, and then obviously, you know, you're in the big boys league. You'd meet up with other guys, and they'd say, "Oh, you're prospect with us and stuff," and then it goes from there. And then you have your initiation, pledge your loyalty to everyone, and then you're in there running with your brothers.
Well, I couldn't join the local Hells Angels gang because I wasn't cool enough. So I thought, oh no, I'll do a parody one. So we called ourselves the Slimy Toads. We had a picture of a toad on the back of our jacket.
It was sort of a bit like a Monty Python's take on the bikers.
Yeah, I think there's about 4 of us in there. I think we lasted about 3 months. It's great fun.
They're a fucking weird bunch, but they found it funny.
Wasn't really my thing being in the Backpatch Club, to be honest with you. Although I was quite an obnoxious bastard, and I probably could have been quite good in the Backpatch Club with all the dirty earning your wings and all that sort of stuff.
The best.
I was quite happy being a little bit of a conformist and all that, really.
You were still a skinhead, really, weren't
Yeah,
you? You rode a motorcycle,
yeah.
but really, you used to hang out down the Roebuck.
Yeah.
And the Roebuck was a notorious skinhead haunt. If you walked past the Roebuck, you could go into a fight, couldn't you?
Everybody crossed over the other side of the road when they walked past it and all that.
Yeah.
And it's now a Muslim temple, believe it or not.
It was, I think, 1977, and I saw T-Rex and the Damned advertised. And I got 2 lots of tickets for the Rainbow on a Friday night. I went with Winston and myself.
Me and Chris went to London and we see T-Rex, and the Damned was supporting and was really taken by the Damned.
The rawness of the guitar playing was what I loved. I was thinking, this is what I want to do.
Music wasn't important. It didn't mean anything to me then as I was chasing around Europe with bike gangs. We didn't take any interest in punk because it just wasn't our scene.
All the other greasers hated it. You know, Nick hated it, he was into Genesis.
My mind was completely out with the bike club. Riding across Europe, 25 choppers, all together, flying the same colours. Just your cut-offs on, the sun shining, no crash helmets, all spread out across the Autobahn, all throwing great big packets of blue speed at each other. Pull over the side of the road and everybody would be cutting all this speed out on buck knives. And we'd ride for 4 days without stopping sometimes. Fucking great blokes. They were big, hairy, tough bastards. 78 was the golden moment for me. It was living the dream that I always thought that I was going to.
We had this local nutter in Tunbridge Wells called Speedy Sparkle. Because I was so desperate for someone to sing, I went up to him and said, look, there's a talent contest next week. Do you fancy having to go with me? Because I want to play guitar. I've got 2 songs that I've written. I said, but I can't sing to save my life. They go, all right, I'll do that. So I taught him these songs and we turned up at the Harvesters in Tunbridge. And I was really nervous because I'd never done anything like that before in my life, played in front of him. If we didn't come last, we came second to last. I didn't give up. I was determined I was going to play and I didn't know how.
I'd settled down because I'd had twin girls. So I was trying to be sort of like a decent citizen and responsible father and a responsible husband, if there could be such a thing.
Winston stayed with the skinhead scene in Tunbridge Wells, and he was notoriously known. A henchman in Tunbridge Wells. He was, any trouble, Winston was there.
I used to do like 3 or 4 night security at different nightclubs around here. I used to deal drugs on the doors, deal speed to all the soul freaks and that sort of thing. I was bringing in 120 a week just for giving the people a cuff around here and throwing them out when they pissed up. So it wasn't too bad, to be honest with you.
1979, they had a little punk concert at Spelders Village Hall for all local bands. And I thought, well, that's it. If they can do it, I can bloody do it. And I asked a few people, I said, you know anyone who wants to start a band? This bloke came up to me, called Chris Elvey. He goes, well, I played bass. I've got bass guitar. I said, all right. Started playing, and I wrote about 5 or 6 songs. Every song I ripped off either T-Rex or an old rock and roll song. And they were doing another one of these concerts for local bands.
He said, we're going to be playing down a local hall as a 3-piece. And he said to me, coming along. And I said, yeah, of course. It was pretty awful, but there was something about Magoo's guitar.
My guitar playing got away with it, but my singing was really rubbish.
He said, I've tried to sing and play the guitar. I can't do it. So I said, well, I'll have a shot at it.
He goes, yeah, of course you can, mate. I didn't know what he'd sound like, but he came to the studio. We had this, we used to practice behind this record shop.
If you've not ever sung into a microphone before, it's very powerful. That thing sitting there looking at you. It took me about 10 minutes to try and make a noise. All that was coming out of my mouth was squeaking. Eventually I started shouting. He went, that's fucking awful.
He nailed it. I said, yes, that's definite, mate. From now on, you're the singer. We just went for it after that.
Nowhere!
I thought of the name about 2 years before the band. I was very frustrated with some of the people I worked with. And I then started calling them nowheres. A nowhere person was someone who maybe would have a dream but didn't chase it. Didn't chase anything he wanted to do. What a waste of time, isn't it? I've only got one life. I said, right, I'm starting up a political party. I said, I'm going to call myself the Anti-Noah League and I'm going to be president. Used to make all these rules up and pin them on notice boards just to annoy people at work. We started the name Anti-Noah League and that was it. It stuck.
The band, they was all right. I mean, they're just playing a load of old rock and roll numbers, Eddie Cochran and stuff like that. I can't remember what happened, but I know the bass player they had didn't fit in at all. I mean, he looked like a spare prick at a wedding.
he didn't really fit in with what we wanted the band to be at the time. I said, well, who can we get as bass player? I said, because I really don't like musicians at all.
And I said, I know just the man.
I can't remember if it was Nick or me, but we both said, Winston.
Winston.
Yes.
He said, that's fucking dangerous.
The one person, the one character that will fit in with us two.
Because he was known as a complete head case, Winston.
Nobody else would do.
Bones said, this is either going to be the best thing this band's ever done, or it'd be the biggest mistake of your life. Driving down the high street, there he is, and Winston was walking down with his missus. I went, oi, Winston.
Do you want to play in our band? He goes, what do you mean? He goes, do you want to play bass guitar in our band? We've got a gig at the weekend.
I went, well, I can't fucking play a guitar.
We'll teach you, but do you want to? We want you in the band. It's as simple as that.
We turned up at his flat and he's got a new bass there, he's got a new amp, he's got everything, completely sourced.
I sold my reggae collection for about 450 quid to buy my first bass guitar and amp and that. So that's how committed I was to the band.
So I didn't know anything about playing bass, but I taught him how to play the songs.
I mean, everything they was playing in those days was ADE, so, I mean, you know, my granddaughter could bleed and play it.
We'd had a couple of practices, and on the Saturday we drove up to Lakenheath US Army Air Base, and we're playing to the sort of real big heavy bikers.
Nick couldn't sing. Chris could only play 3 chords, I think. And Bones, who was the drummer, well, you could have played it on a saucepan, what he played. And then when you're playing to a bunch of drunk, drugged up bikers and it sounds like Eddie Cochran, Come On Everybody or whatever, it don't really matter, does it?
That's a bloody awful row. We had about 5 or 6 songs that were really dreadful.
I just made up as we went along. So if you did your version of, you know, Born to Be Wild, it would sound nothing like Born to Be Wild. That was what punk was about.
You know, if you find something you like, drag it in, nick it, use it, change it. Just choose the good bits and then put them in our songs. And then suddenly, you create something yourself. You go, wow, where did that come from? Oh, I like this. This is good.
Don't bother trying to write songs. Just rip some motherfuckers off.
Yeah, cheat. Yeah, cheat. I think Nick and I inspired each other an awful lot. You know, he'd have an idea, I'd have an idea, I'd come up with a riff, he'd come up with a subject.
When him and I started writing together, there was a simple recipe, you know. He laughed, my foot tapped. And if together we would both look down at each other and he was giggling and my foot was tapped, we were on the right mode for songwriting.
The whole songwriting subject matter was taking the mickey out of someone. You know, some poor unfortunate person somewhere, you know, whoever we saw them and we looked to laugh about, let's write a song about him. It'll get him, write a song about him.
It was a lot better than punching people. So I found it a real great help. Writing songs, writing horrible songs, didn't get me in so much trouble with doing horrible things.
None of us were punkers. We jumped on the punk bandwagon because we couldn't play very well. We were bikers playing punk music.
We just went on and just got popular, really. You know, got popular locally.
But we wanted to play in London. We really wanted to play in London. One evening I was reading a music paper and I saw the Damned were playing up at Canning Town, in this place called the Bridge House. I phoned Nick up and I said, should we go up and ask if we can support them?
I didn't really know much about the Damned. The Goof thought they were good and it was his idea saying, right, we've got to get on tour with these guys. Where do we do that?
And he rightly said, they'll get bands every day asking to support them. He goes, he offers some money. He says, don't ask them. He says, bribe them. So we went up to Canning Town, Nick and I. I saw the drummer there, Rat Scabies. I'd never met him before.
That was it, collared rat in the bog.
These sort of piles of dirt with tattoos shuffled up. I've almost certainly been intimidated.
Hello, Rat. We play in a band in Tunbridge Wells. Of course, he couldn't care less. We'd give you some money if we can support you.
The dam was really broke at the time. And I just remember thinking, wait, these Muppets want to give us a couple of £100 to come on the bill, then we'll put them on, you know, why not?
A week later, he phoned me up. He said, we've got 3 gigs up north. Shrewsbury Town Hall, Walsall Civic Hall, and Retford Porterhouse. So I had to off my memory. He said, do you want to do them? Will we? Call me bloody right we will. So we did.
We had no money, of course. We had a van, dogs in the van, equipment in the van. We slept under the van in the snow some nights.
We drove up to Shrewsbury. The Dam were there. We watched their sound check and I'm going, bloody hell, this is amazing. I'm actually this far away from the Dams, you know, because they'd be my idol. We played and we actually blew the place apart. It was brilliant. The audience went mad.
We are the league!
Is this? They can't play, their songs are fucking totally obnoxious. The audience fucking adored them. It was just kind of, we don't give a fuck what you think of us.
Oh, we are the league, oh, we're the extra man. Oh, we are the league, we are the anti-man. Let those who say you'll be there for it, 'cause we are here and we have gone with the league. We are the league.
We've done this, we've made this. This is the league. Take them or leave them.
We'd never played on the stage before. You know, we'd only played ground level to sort of bikers. And suddenly we were playing on this big stage and there's people shaking their fists at us, they're spitting us, so we're shaking their fists back. And the weird thing was, this is where the biker thing come in. We weren't fazed by it. The adrenaline rush was so great, it just made us play harder.
Well, we are the league, and we are mad. We are the league, the music's bad.
They were proper hard nuts. That's why they managed to carry it off with all these dreadful songs.
We are the league. We are the league. The antinowhereleaguezzzxxxyyy.
The Dam loved us, and we had a great time with them afterwards. I was out of just completely on cloud 9, so I was with the heroes of my life, but the Dam were my heroes, and I was drinking with them as an equal, not as like as a spectator.
Well, we had loads of speed, loads of amphetamine and all that, and served them up, and it was just like a really, really good weekend of acting up and taking drugs and everything else you do.
They were a lot of fun to hang out because they all had this sense of humour that went with misery.
You've got to remember at that point, we didn't have any money to buy food, did we? So the Damned used to feed us, didn't they?
Yeah. We got to the point where we could say, oh, if we're going to play, then we want 24 cheese and tomato sandwiches and, you know, and so we'd have food in the dressing room. And I remember we'd turn up and they'd all be sitting there sort of all blankets and things, and then they come in and they'd see this food and it'd be, it's all right if we have some, because they were really polite as well. That was the odd thing.
I think it was sensible when Magoo's birthday.
So we said, yeah, let's get a hotel for the night. And we thought, well, we're a rock and roll band now, we're in a hotel, we got a party.
The Damned obviously came to our room. I think either Sensible or Scabies had some pyrotechnics and ended up blowing his fucking wardrobe to bits.
Blew everything up, you know, and I trashed the room totally, you know, and then said goodnight and left us in this pile of, you know, in the morning everyone's waking up and going, fucking hell, we're going to have to pay for this, we've got no money.
Well, I remember the next day that we had to piece all this wardrobe together and we had to prop it up with matchsticks and bits of cardboard and everything, and so it could all so we could leave the hotel.
Yeah, we got away with it. Yeah.
It was a great evening. It was really good fun.
Well, I joined a few in 76 and I finished with them in 80. You go to get full loyalty. You can't flip between, oh, I'm your mate today, but by the way, I'm going on tour tomorrow. You can't. So that's when I had to say to the rest of the club, I'm now in a punk band. Please don't kill me.
After we'd done those three, John Curd decided he wanted to get involved with them.
I discovered him in 1981, and I just thought it was such a brilliant name, the Anti-Nowhere League. Anybody with a name like that was bound to be quite creative, crazy people, you know, and they were.
And he didn't have any of their phone numbers. Nobody knew how to get hold of them.
I'm reading Melody Maker, and there's an advert, Apocalypse Now tour, and it's got Discharge, Exploited, Antipasti, Crongen, and at the bottom, Anti-Nowhere League. And I see it, I went, that's us! We're in the music papers, what's going on there? So I phoned up the promoter, and I said, I've seen this advert for a gig. I said, it's got our name of our band on it.
And I said, do you want to do it? And he went, yes, please.
A load of fans, I think they had a couple of coaches from Tunbridge Wells, followed us up there and wanted to see us play. And we went down a fucking storm.
We were playing on a massive stage, just 2,000 people.
I've never seen anything like it. You know, Nick had these big thick chains crisscrossed across his chest. But he was waving this massive great axe around and smashing it into the stage. And I just thought they looked fantastic and worked fantastic. They went down the storm with the people at the Lyceum.
And they hate me!
They'd go on stage and they'd play and they'd sneer and they weren't very good. And McGill had the guitar in open tuning and played everything with one finger. And
we were so different. I mean, I think at that time we was all covered in tattoos. We looked like a bunch of fucking toe rags, really, you know. And I mean, Nick wielding an axe and screaming on my child molester and things like that.
And after that, I put them on at the Lyceum supporting the dead Kennedys.
And then we were playing with the Clash. It was just an incredible thing. And all we did, walk on stage and took the piss out of the Clash audience, saying that they were all a bunch of wankers and that. And then the Clash wouldn't come on unless you spat on them. Of course, that pissed the Clash right off.
You remember who pays your wages, who pays your money and everything else. And then you tell them they're cunts, that's great. I tell you what, they won't come again. You're right, they'll come every time.
You speak for yourself.
Yeah, we'll
I like being called a cunt.
Yeah.
They were hard guys, and they were in a bike gang, and you wouldn't really want to argue with, especially Winston and especially Nick.
We were the young pretenders who were just pissing on their parade.
It was sort of like larger than life, you know. None of us ever expected it to sort of happen. I mean, the way we thought about it, we was a fucking poxy old band from Tunbridge Wells. I mean, we knew fuck all about the music business.
It was exciting, but it wasn't, you wasn't musically inept to think that you were going to get a future out of it, you know.
Our drummer, Bones, I don't think he really wanted to commit long term. I think he had other things he wanted to do.
He was, I think, went off to become a gold bullion dealer or something.
We realised we needed a more powerful drummer. Winston knew PJ.
PJ, Christ almighty, well, that is the story in itself. He was narrator, in those days called a Persian, and he was always in a local pub, which was the Bristol. We used to go in there, he'd be playing the fruit machines. And I give the nickname, but the nickname PJ is Persian John. That's what it stands for.
PJ was a bit of an outcast, really. He came in obviously from Iran. We didn't know him from Adam when he first turned up.
PJ was playing for a band, believe it or not, called the Ayatollahs. We had him come and play with the band.
I didn't know those songs at all. So we went for a rehearsal and they started playing their songs and I just played them, one after the other. Bang, 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 bang. 12 songs, done it. And they went, I said, we'll do that again. I said, yes, let's do it again. We did it again, exactly the same. And that was it. And they stayed like that forever.
He was the last link. We needed a good drum sound, a very powerful drum sound behind us. That just made it. You know, we had the raw sound of the guitar, Winston's bass and persona, Nick's vocals and persona. For a while, it was absolute dynamite. We were there.
He was the icing on the cake. There was this obnoxious bike gang singing these fucking obnoxious songs. You couldn't get a more obnoxious lineup than them. And to top it off, there was an Iranian drummer, the most hated nation in England at the time. It was an accident waiting to happen.
It's an horrible story, but it's part of the anti-nowhere league folklore and all that. When PJ first joined the band, we had loads of sort of skinhead followers and that. And because a lot of skinheads at that time was, you know, sort of racially motivated or racist and all that, we thought, what we're going to do, we got an Iranian joining the band, but, you know, we're going to lose a lot of fans and everything. So we made PJ wear a stocking on his head.
Yeah, the fuckers, they did. You know, why would you do that? I've no idea.
I really can't remember if it was a thing because we had an eye following or if it's just because we thought he looked ugly.
It wasn't stocking, it was one leg off a pair of his wife's tights. Anyway, we said we'd have this big unveiling, that if he played with this stocking on his head, he'd be like the mystery drummer, and we'd do a big unveiling sort of weeks later, but we never ever did. I just think we only take it off one night.
I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a joke. I mean, what can you say about how people were behaving those days, you know, with foreign people? You know, that's just the way he was, you know. You couldn't do anything about it.
John Curd was a major player in our career move from Tunbridge Wells to London.
I'd started up a record label. It was called WXYZ, and they were the first band on that label, really. And it all kicked off from there.
We were going in to do a demo. We financed it ourselves. And there was a couple of songs on it, you know, including Streets of London.
Well, did you see the old man outside the seaman's mission? Memories are fading with the medals that he wears.
It was my idea to do Streets of London. I did like listening to folk songs there, and I did like Ralph Mattel's Streets of London. It was pretty awful when we first started to play it, because the Goo couldn't play it at all. So we had to cut the song to a couple of chords that he couldn't play.
Don't you say to me, your sun don't shine?
And then we had to butcher it down with the lyrics and stuff.
The old girl who walks the streets of London, she ain't got no money, and she's all dressed in rags. And have you seen the old girl who walks the streets of London? She carries her old knickers into Parlour Bean's bag. So how can you tell me you're alone?
John Curd got us to come up to Maida Vale Studios in London. He said, right, he said, I want you to record your cover of Streets of London as an A-side. He said, and do So What on the B-side. And we thought, well, that's the worst song in the set. He goes, no, everyone loves it, trust me.
So fucking what?
And I'd already written So What, and the whole subject of it was there, but once Nick and Winston got their teeth into it and we'd had a few drinks and we were recording it, the subject matter got lewder and lewder. and it was funnier and funnier. And the more we had to drink, the ruder we had to be.
And I fucked the sheep, and I fucked the goat. I've had my cock right down its throat. So what? So what? So what? So what? You boy little cunt.
We all take the blame for it. But fuck to go. I think that's the funniest thing, actually. I think that's quite amusing, really.
Because then you had two extremes, don't you think? You had a folk song that was punk rocked up, and you had this mad, obscene, so what, on the other side. Quite funny, the whole thing.
Well, who cares? Who cares what you do? And who cares? Who cares about you?
He virtually posted half of London with these big A1 AO posters of us and the big fist and Streets of London, So What, double B-side. They were pretty much all over London. It was a real buzz driving through London and seeing them.
We were all chuffed when it got into the bottom of the charts.
It was flying off the shelves. It really was selling.
I've had Skank, I've had Speed, I've jacked up until I bleed.
I had listened to the lyrics and thought, well, they're a bit out of order, but it didn't occur to me that some straight twat out there was going to complain about it.
And who cares? Who cares about you?
Some straight guy had bought the record or had heard about how obscene the B-side was and made a complaint to the police.
So fucking what? Yeah.
It's not really a surprise, is it? I fuck sheep, I fuck goat. You know, come on, really, boys.
And the porn squad raided these offices and took every copy they could find. And they went down the pressing plant and confiscated the that makes the records, the stampers that makes the records. They confiscated that, and they confiscated anything that had their name on it. And I got taken to court. It was just absolutely ridiculous, the whole thing, really.
When they see So What, I mean, that was massive press. It was in all the papers, and it just did nothing but help us.
One of the most fantastic things that happened, we managed to get Nick on the front cover of the Sounds. And Nick looked great. You know, he was a big guy. He was 6'2", 6'3". He had that mad hair and the chains and the axe. And
it's beautiful. It's perfect. And they had their own little magic bubble, and that was the thing. The League were this little. At that one point in time, they'd got it exactly right, and there was nothing that they could do that would make it go wrong.
We were sort of kick-started into this nearly semi-stardom, and it was a real weird buzz, but great. I mean, I left work immediately. I thought, oh, this is it, don't need to work anymore for a while.
it caused such a stir, that record. That's how we managed to get on top of the poll.
We were selling a fucking lot of records. They said, well, you can come up and do Top of the Pops, but the singer must not bring an axe. It's like having Tourette's, isn't it? I must not bring an axe. I must not bring an axe. Yeah, you've got to have to, haven't I? So that was it. I stuffed an axe up my shirt, and that was it.
We turned up at BBC Studios, and as we got in the lift, there was Kenny Everett and Billy Connolly getting in the lift. Well, Kenny Everett was like a right pompous little prat.
We were definitely the sort of shit he did not like at all. And I still think he did that Sid Snot thing because of us.
Hello, transvestite bashers. Sid Snot here with a little tale about our friends, the animals.
I think that character came from us.
We got as far as the dressing room, and then we got kicked out.
It all kicked off. I think we was going to bash up Haircut 100 or something. Something kicked off anyway, and something usually does.
You got Nick wielding an axe and everything, and they wouldn't allow us on in the end.
I was so upset about that, because it could have gone bang from then. I mean, had they got on, I think that would have stalled up the charts, that record.
At the time, we didn't really give a fuck, to be honest with you. It didn't really matter.
Four blokes, as in normal bands, haven't got any interest in nothing at all. Who don't believe anything what anybody's ever told them. Who have got respect for absolutely nobody. Who cares about absolutely nothing. And produce a row which nobody's ever heard before. People try and say what we are, they try and put it together. Let's say the Anti-Nowhere League are this and that. But if we don't know, I'm sure the people who've seen us don't know. Like I say, we do things because we like upsetting people. We like laughing at them. We find the whole human race totally stupid. We got our own morals we live by. And the respect for one another we have. But we have no respect for anybody else at all.
Just being a truly obnoxious bunch of bastards sort of got us somewhere, really.
You know, it was punk rock metal biker gang madness.
Me, I always used to like outdo the person that was doing something exceedingly dirty and disgusting. I could do something far more exceedingly dirty and disgusting than they could.
He had no stop button, Winston. He didn't have a sort of better not do that button. Anything you said to him, that was it. You know, you was in peril.
Class act, old Wince, you know, class act. In many ways.
Do you understand what class means? It's dares, really. And Winston used to do some pretty crazy dares. You could dare him to do anything and he would do it.
I mean, the Damned we were the fucking boys, you know. We were outrageous. We didn't give a fuck about anything. And then the League turned up.
It was in Doncaster Rotta's dressing room, and we were talking to Rat, and he was going, I love touring with you. Like, he goes, you're a right laugh, he says, but there's nothing you can do that would shock me. Unfortunately, he said that to Winston, which is the wrong thing to say.
And they had, like, some food laid out, sandwiches and sort of crudité and stuff like that.
Captain, being a veggie, used to insist on fresh veg and cottage cheese.
So Winston picks his carrot up out of this big plate of crudities. He shoved it in some cottage cheese, dropped his trousers, shoved it right up his arse, and then ate it.
I think it was in Thousand Island. It was either Thousand Island or Blue Cheese Dip or something. And I stuck it up my arse, pulled it out and ate it. And everybody's like, ugh, ugh.
Fucking hell. You can't get stop. That's it, I'm done. And it was at that exact point I went, I'm not the fucking most outrageous punk rocker in the world. These guys can fucking have it, they've won.
What life? What life have we got? There's a lot of fucking preaching.
John Kerr did a lot for us. The main thing, I think that really worked for us, was the tour of America.
The tour of the UK Stubs was called Hardcore Storms America, and it was bloody brilliant. We went down a treat.
It made a great package. It did really well right around America, north, south, east and west.
UK Subs introducing the Anti-Nowhere League.
They played at the Peppermint Lounge, I remember that well, in New York.
You cunts. We're too good for you fuckers anyway. Oh, fuck off, home. This one's our new single, so you got to go out and buy it, all right?
Don't fucking go out and buy it. We don't want your fucking money.
We were out of control at that point.
It's called Let's Break the Law Tonight.
And we were in the land of cocaine dreams. You know, everywhere you went, everybody had cocaine. It wasn't like a dodgy little place in the back of a bog hole in London somewhere. These blokes had fucking bags of it. I don't think we slept the whole tour. It just got worse and worse, you know.
And we did something that's never been done before, actually, in my opinion. We did something called Fly Tour. So it was $1,000 per person, and you could fly anywhere you wanted to. But if the plane was full, peak, you couldn't get on. But generally speaking, you got on, just carried their guitars, and the promoters had to supply all the equipment at the other end.
We were just in an aeroplane all the time. We had a cheap ticket with Republic Airlines, so we'd end up doing 3 or 4 flights a day. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4.
If you get from A to B, you might have had to go X, Y, Z to get there, you know?
It was horrendous. It was just awfully boring.
You know, the band didn't mind, and it was a quicker way of doing it.
Now, bearing in mind, that was the time of the Iranian hostage siege. So feelings between Americans and Iranians weren't really that good. And PJ was obviously an Iranian. So we're walking through customs and the alarms go off because he's got a bullet belt. It was fashionable at the time, bullet belt. Security guard goes up to him and say, "Hey, boy, what you got round those belt? What's on your belt?" And PJ wisely says, "Bullets, you cunt. What do you think they are?" And within a minute, his collar was pulled up and he was off. I think we had to do a couple of gigs with the UK Subs drummer.
His passport was always a pain in the arse, you know. Everything about PJ was a pain in the arse.
He just was a liability. I mean, Nick will tell you that and Chris will tell you that.
PJ got such a rough end of the stick, didn't he? He was, first of all, he was a great fucking drummer, but his English wasn't very good. And I know Winston used to give him shit all the time.
When he'd say something, it wouldn't come out like it was meant to come out, because if he pulled a girl, he'd say, "She had lovely eye." Well, you know, she had two eyes, so she had lovely eyes. She didn't have a lovely eye, did she? So just things like that, and you think, well, you know, you don't make no sense, mate.
Obviously, my accent was awful, and very difficult getting a word out without someone saying something about it.
I got boxing boots. Well, no, you got a pair of boxing boots. It's we had some fun, actually.
Although they were having a laugh, it was all one-sided, as far as I'm concerned, you know.
He was the whipping boy, I guess, because he wasn't Tunbridge Wells, he wasn't one of them.
He was a whinger, he never stopped moaning and whinging all the time. And Nick, and it was always Nick who'd be moaning at.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Why me?
God, flying, it was just hell. You know, 3-4 times a day, going up and down. I think everyone went on strike. We just went to the bar. Basically, everyone ordered a bottle of tequila, got on the plane, spewed everywhere.
We'd go to the guitarist, he puked up on a seat, and someone else stuck their hand up to clean the skirt, and it wasn't me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
sure.
No, it wasn't me.
I always thought it was you.
No, it
who
wasn't
did
me.
that.
No, honestly, hand on heart, it wasn't me.
And the captain came up and said, "Right, I'm not flying this plane anywhere because until you lot get off," and everyone's going, "Fuck off, you old cunt, fuck off, you old cunt, we'll fly it then, you old cunt."
And next thing, the police are saying, "Come on, off you go."
The next thing we know, they've falsely frog marked us off the plane. But no, it definitely wasn't me to put my hand up to clean the skirt.
Got us off and into the hotel for the night, and you know, I had to cancel the next show.
We had this big flash holiday in with food and swimming pool and everything like that, so it was like a bit of a win double, really.
If we toured with the Subs for a month, then I don't remember a month of it.
It was about 3 months.
The first two things we had in the charts was one was Streets of London, So What, and then I'm pretty sure after that it was I Hate People.
Hello, wankers. Wishing I could hide away and find a wall to make my place. I'm living in a fantasy, I'm a dream reality. People write about day in metal boxes metal. Wishing they would drop the bomb and kill you bastards don't belong. I hate this human race. I hate your ugly face. I hate your fucking mess. And they hate me.
We Are the League album went top 20. Well, I mean, it was I think it was number 1 in the independent chart. I think we started taking ourselves a little bit more seriously then than what we had done in the past, because obviously we must have had something to warrant or generate all those sales.
I still think it's a great album, that. Should be a top 100 album, that, in my opinion.
Kurd lifted us up. We knew he was selling millions of our records, but keeping us on the road, and we had nothing.
They didn't sell millions. I wish they had. If they had, we'd all be millionaires. We'd all be out there driving around in big cars.
Getting thrown out of my house because I can't pay £3.50 a week rent.
groups it's always somebody else's fucking fault, and they never got paid, and they were due millions, and it's all a load of bollocks, to be honest with you.
So then I had to go and sign on a dole, which I really hated. That was the worst for me. So I used to have to go and dress up and grease my hair back and wear fucking nutty glasses and an old coat and stuff like that and go in there. And I had to do that fucking performance every week to go down and get £10 dole money.
Why do you think we all chose the same names? I'll tell you why, because if Chris Miller went to sign on and Chris Miller was in the paper, the dole office would find out. Rat Scabies was a different character.
It's a case of change your appearance or get a job and drive the scrounge.
So fucking what? Well, I've been to Hastings and I've been to Brighton, I've been to Eastbourne too. So what? So what?
The tour had to be called the So What Tour, didn't it, really? That was the first headline tour, yeah.
Stuart Copeland, the drummer of the Police, had come on tour with us and made a movie called the So What movie.
On punk bands. In order to put out on the television. No, cinema. Is it legit, you know?
It was my first film. I had no idea what goes into making a film.
Is that a Seiko lens?
The other one. Cheers. I kind of liked it because I grew quite fond of those bands, and I did enjoy watching them.
We was going to come in and be all nice to you tonight, telling you how much we loved you all, but we'd only be fucking lying.
I probably went out there to shoot my good buddies in Chelsea, but they were supporting the Anti-Nowhere League. They were a pretty happening band, actually. When the Anti-Nowhere League came on, there was kind of a sense of an upgrade.
My fair ladies! Oh, how did you see the old man outside the seaman's mission? That memories are fading with the feathers that he wears.
Animal had kind of a greaser look to him. Animal's hair was not buzz cut punk. He had long hair. Dude, you got long hair going on there, you know? And I'm not even sure if that was allowed by punk rules. He was a big guy with a lot of presence on stage. He was a little more hostile than most. Magoo, I remember the top hat. The drummer, he had some strange ethnicity. He had a problem, a cloud over him. You know, he was kind of more mysterious than the others, kind of culturally distinct from the others. I remember Winston. Winston has a visual, he was kind of short blonde hair. He looked like a member of Village People. Real hostile.
I went on to wear like a leather gaze hat, and it was known in the King's Road. They were sold as Winston hats. So whether people thought that I was the other way or whatever, I don't really know.
He loved it, didn't he? He was a gay icon. Winston was a gay icon.
I had a pair of leather chaps made in the King's Road, so he must have been sort of like a punk version of Village People or something.
Don't say to me, it's not no shine. Well, let me take you by the hand and drag you through the streets of London. I'll show you something that will make you fucking sick.
We were starting to get a bit bored with it all. And unfortunately, Copeland got us at that period of time.
I fucking hate this. Getting up out of that fucking bed, drag you out in the mornings. Don't get nothing to eat. Don't get no fucking money. Nobody gives a fucking shit.
Yeah, go on, run in that cafe. I'll film. Run in that cafe and smash it up.
All the things that people expect you to do.
Yeah, go on, go and beat that bloke up. Oh, fuck off, he ain't done nothing.
Oh, I did a lot of that. I got the punks to pull down their pants, and I was trying to get the punks to be photogenic. Could you, like, break something? Could you do something, anything? Come on, your world is a piece of shit. Aren't you a little bit mad about it? Let's see some anger.
Well, no, I got fucking hangover, and I really want to go in there and have a cup of coffee. The more people expected, the more we backed off.
They had a pose of seen it all before. They had kind of a fin du siècle vibe about them, and I'm sure that's an expression that Animal used all the time.
Copeland's film was dull. I think he wanted us out on the road being wild men. But if you remember at the time, we were fucking pretty much burnt out.
I remember when So What opened in New York. I think it played for one night. I believe there were 3 people in the theater. And I remember that there was applause. I think when the end title roll started, oh, yeah, fuck, thank God.
I think really we'd peaked. Streets of London, So What, 6 months before and 6 months after was the peak, and we couldn't follow it up. We couldn't write better songs than the earlier ones. We got to the point where the songs we needed to write, we needed someone clever in the band, and we all talked about it and said, well, we need a lead guitarist, because I was really only a rhythm guitarist.
Chris just lost his...
He lost his confidence
Absolutely.
and he lost interest in it, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, I think.
We'd been in the public eye for about a year, and we just wanted a slightly different sound, and we got Gilly in the band then.
Guess that one. I first met PJ in the, I'd say, 78 or 79. And we formed the band, the Ayatollahs. And he phoned up out of the blue, and I hadn't seen him for ages. And he said, do you want to join the Anti-Nowhere League? And I said, actually, I'd love to.
We were good friends. Maybe I felt like wanting my friend to come and play with me, you know.
So I drove up to Tunbridge Wells and met Nick, and he gave me the first album with basically things crossed out. He said, if you learn these bits, learn these songs. And I worked everything out, note for note. And it was a joy. Nick used to come over a lot, and then we used to write songs together. We started doing demos, and they were all sounding very, very good.
We see the boys all run, the sight of the gun, the men lay down and die.
When I came along with the second album, the branded album, following up We Are the League, Kurt had just lost his bollocks on putting Motorhead on at Wembley. £100,000 I heard he owed. A lot of money back then.
That's bollocks. I made a lot of money out of Motorhead. I sold out a week at the Havens of Apollo, as it was called.
So he needed all his money from We Are the League album to pay this debt off. So when I went along with the branded album, he said, oh, what stupid that is.
Well, yeah, when Nick brought the demos for the new album, I just thought that it was all too lame for me. There was no balls, no bollocks. Like, you know, you think of the Anti-Nowhere League, you think of like balls and bollocks, really, don't you?
What do we laugh a lot and do we cry a lot at the things some people say? What the boys will be girls, the girls will be boys. It's a game we can't play. 'Cause we are ready, from the cradle, we are commanded.
There was a guy that worked with me called Stuart Lyon, and he came up with a brainwave, which was taken to Yugoslavia.
We was the first Western band to record a live album in Eastern Bloc country, and I think it was just one of these harebrained, scatterbrained, bleeding ideas that our record company came up with.
We found a radio station, which it was called Belgrade Radio, I think. We blagged them into using their live recording machine that they had. We went out on the road and recorded probably 8 or 10 shows and made the album.
My first engagement, live engagement, which was live in Yugoslavia. It was a baptism of fire, definitely.
You can't believe how it went down. It was unbelievable. It's like when you hear these live albums of massive bands, so we know, say for argument's sake, Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin and all that, the audience noise before we went on stage was, I mean, talk about a buzz. You couldn't have got much more of a buzz, you know. And it was, a real good gig. We took the Live in Yugoslavia
tapes into Rockfield in Wales, where we had them mastered. While we were there doing this, I wandered outside, and I saw, wandering across the yard, some bloke where I vaguely recognised him in Wellingtons. And he had the same hair as me. And he got closer and closer to me, and I realised it was Robert Plant. And he came over and said, "Hello, I'm just going to see what you're doing." You know. And anyway, he was a really nice bloke. And he came in and sat next to me while we were doing this and listening to it. And he was going like this, really getting very excited by it. He said, "That reminds me of my first album," you know. And I thought, well, it's not that bad then, is it? You know. And of course, Robert Plant was doing a song called Big Log then. And I went over to listen to that, him doing that as well. And it was absolutely beautiful. And then he wandered off with his wellies, never to be seen by me again.
We released a live album, and it done, as far as I remember, it done really, really well.
Well, it sold all right. All the hits and more on it.
Live in Yugoslavia sold a fucking lot of records again off the back of We Are the League. But of course, all the money was pocketed for all these debts he had.
The American tour was in June 1983. A couple of months, I think it was. We got well looked after on this second tour because we were a little more established.
In those days, they MTV jukeboxes in sort of clubs and all that, and you know, our video for Streets of London was like one of the most played there and everything. So going into the Peppermint Lounge, people already knew me, and you think, fucking hell, I come from like Tunbridge Wells, Tunbridge Wells. I'm in New York, and people know me. You know, that's quite a buzz, really.
Winston and this porn queen fell for each other. Her name was Annie Sprinkle, and she used to do dirty cassettes, and they had great fun together.
One was called Annie Sprinkle, the Queen of the Stream, and Veronica Vera, and I can't remember who the other one was. Oh, Long Jean Silver, she was an amputee, so she only had one leg. So I had my liaisons with them. And I got taken to a sex club in New York, which was down in the meatpacking area of New York, which was called the Hellfire Club. I couldn't believe it. I mean, that was like a real eye-opener. And I remember someone giving me a sniff of amyl nitrate, or I think it was butyl nitrate over there. Well, I took so much of it, I collapsed on the floor. When I woke up, there was all these blokes with their pricks out over the top of me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He was in the bog, and they all wanted to piss on him, I think.
And it was quite weird.
The gays loved him because he was muscly, blonde hair, tattooed, good looking.
I always had a saying that I'd try anything twice just in case I didn't like it the first time.
I was the same. I embraced it. It was exactly that. It was sex, drugs and rock and roll. I'm unashamed to say that I enjoyed it. This is the dream. It even made Motley Crue look lightweight. It was that indulgent.
It was like being in a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It was like, wow, all of a sudden, these boys from Tunbridge Wells were whipped out of our, shall we say, comfort zone of Tunbridge Wells into the world where everything went and everything you could absorb.
Yeah, in fact, you could the sweet shop syndrome. That's what
it was. It was just like,
you know, I mean,
sex, drugs and rock and roll.
As much sex as you wanted, as much drug, you know, people giving you drugs, rather than you have to buy them.
And even if you didn't want them, you take them.
And being totally obnoxious to people, and people really like you being obnoxious to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it don't get any better, does it, really?
There were some very distressing and powerful things going on at that time for us because we were overindulging.
The fun turned into the darkness. Me pulling Winston in a hotel room out in New York, he wanted to kill himself, you know. He'd done so much gear, and Billy Idol's car was just down below the hotel. He said, I'm going to throw myself on the roof of that. We were 50 stories up, and I'm pulling him back in, saying, Winston, don't. He said, my head hurts. I can't fucking do this anymore. I can't fucking do it. And I've got him 1 foot up on the side of the window, pulling him in the window, you know.
You take drugs and you get to a certain height, and then you keep taking them, and then you just sit in a corner and you're sort of like ventilating.
The worst thing I ever done, I locked horns with Magoo one night. Drunk and drug stupor, you know, really upsetting. It cut me bad. I don't do things like that, you know. These 4 boys from Tunbridge Wells are now well out of their depth. We were just burning and spiraling out of control.
You then learn that being in a band ain't really that glamorous. It's not really what you want to do for the rest of your life.
If we hadn't been friends as from before, from school, and known each other through bikes and all that sort of thing, I don't reckon we would have lasted as long as we did, to be honest with you. I mean, we'd all fall out with each other on tour and all that, but we'd have like an heated argument and all that, and then it'd be forgotten, you know.
Apart from a little young drummer.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, PJ leaving the band, I mean, I think it was on the cards because he was getting a bit of a liability.
Bless PJ, as much as I love him now, he was a real pain on tour.
We went to Spain. We did a gig out in, I think it was Madrid.
However, when we got off the boat, there was a big hold-up, and we suddenly realised that PJ wasn't with us, and he'd been hauled over by the Spanish customs and put on the boat back, and he was seen as being uninvited.
And John Curd kept him on the ferry for like 2 days or something going between France and England, because nobody would admit to having him or giving him the right work papers and stuff.
There'd always be something like that would happen with him. It would be an absolute bleeding nightmare.
It does happen all the time in bands, but because he wasn't one of the old gang, it was different. It was just so easy just to out him than it was trying to patch up with what you would do with your mates.
I got the task of saying we didn't want him in the band anymore, and I remember him saying to me, it shows what sort of cunt you are, you maybe wear stocking on head.
Carrot crunchers. I just suddenly heard that they had another drummer. and I thought, well, fine, where's my drum kit? And they said, what drum kit? I went, my drum kit. We don't know what you're talking about. They took my drum kit, and I think my lucky underpants as well. It was yellow. So, yeah, that was it. That was the end of me playing with Anti-Nowhere League.
Poor PJ.
Kentish people.
We were just a little bit then wondering, where do we go from here? We'd upset everybody. How many times can we upset it, or should we just fuck off and disappear? Which we should have done in a way.
The way we saw it, punk was sort of dying a bit. We needed to get into another sort of sphere of music.
And I suddenly thought, am I going to spend another few years going out doing So What over and over again? As a man in his 30s, the business of actually dressing up in leather trousers and often not wearing a top or just a leather jacket didn't seem as appealing. You know, I couldn't be gobbed at forevermore, you know.
Gilly was probably the only musician or proper musician in the band, and I think his influence really over-influenced us, if anything, didn't it really?
In a way, I don't blame Gilly. I blame a little bit Chris, because he gave the reins over to Gilly, didn't he?
I got very lazy because we were looking for a change of direction that we couldn't do ourselves. So we let Gilly do a lot of the songwriting.
Through 1983 into 84, we started doing demos. John Curd loved the songs we were doing. He loved where we were going. He was very excited about it. He put us into a recording studio.
We recorded with a big-name producer, Chris Kimsey, who does Rolling Stones. We used to love dropping his name. It was great. Oh, yeah, we're with Chris Kimsey, the rock and roll Rolling Stones producer.
Chris was incredible. He gave us some magic.
We're going to get a really big producer in, produce this really horribly musical song, and we're going to be massive. You know, we were deluded enough to think that.
We were getting comparisons to being like bands like MC5. Even one we were compared to Steppenwolf, would you believe? But we weren't forcing that change, it was just happening.
It died a death, that single. It was terrible.
At that time, we was a reasonably successful band,
We were selling millions.
We weren't getting the money, the money in. I mean, Curd, we got well and truly fucked, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, we were all short of money. It was difficult being an independent record label, and it was difficult with the music they were doing. Maybe that's why Nick wanted to commercialise it. And I remember having a meeting with them about the whole situation, and I just, you know, maybe I'll shoot myself in the foot, but anyway, I said, look, that's what you want to do. That's what I think. Let's just forget about it and, you know, still be friends.
You know, ended up in fisticuffs, and that was it, you know.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a fightette.
Oh no, they went through it one day. And apparently it lasted for about an hour.
I think we're talking about 5 minutes, maybe. You don't fight for an hour. No, I was really furious with them. It was fucking stupid. There was a big future for them in America. If they kept to what we originally were going to do, I think they would have ended up making a lot of money.
We just wanted, obviously, to sell records, make money, but, you know, follow the rock and roll dream, like, you know, like everyone does. But like with all untalented bands, their first album is brilliant, and unless they're brilliant, they will never, ever write an album as good as their first one.
Up pops Doug Smith, Bonds Records. So we went along with a demo, and Doug said they were amazing. He said, these are the best rock songs I've ever heard. So he said, I'll put out 20 grand for the album. 20 grand, I mean, to us, it was like fucking 20 grand, you know. Christ, what are we going to do? Go in the studio and do that? If we do it for 5 grand, we're going to have 15 grand between us. Life's going to be pretty good. We're back on the road again.
Brother to brother, man to man, nation to nation, we enter the age of crime.
One of the most peculiar things about this album called The Perfect Crime was where it was recorded. It was called ICC, Christian Studios, in the nearby town, referred to, of course, in So What, as Eastbourne.
We got 10% off if we said we were Christians.
It wasn't our idea to go to this Christian studio. It was the most peculiar thing. I mean, if you wrote a comedy script, no one would believe it, would they?
Well, I know. It was just an awful time. We just wanted to do anything. You know, half of us were thinking of chucking the band in. Nick never wanted to chuck the band in, but I think Winston and I were sort of getting a bit, oh God, really?
We totally and absolutely lost the plot. We were heading into a territory we always said we didn't want to go to.
It was a drug-fueled cacophony.
We thought we could get in there and produce it with a sound engineer in it. Obviously, we couldn't. It shows how we was going up our own arse. We had Dave Steer playing keyboards for us, looking like fucking Thomas Dolby.
We should never have put bloody keyboards on it. It's the most awful thing to do. It was just dreadful. I would put my hand up because I was so keen to be of the 80s.
We went along with it. We're guilty. You're not trying to put the blame on anyone. We were lazy. But yeah, that's good. It's like the King's new clothes. Oh, he likes it, so it must be good. I like it.
Our drummer at the time had a septic bollock. Do you remember?
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, Jonathan Birch, our drummer, he had a septic bollock. Yeah. He had to have it in a sling. Yeah. And every time he's gone on, he hit the bass drum. He's oh.
He had it in a sack, like one of those hairnets.
Yeah.
Like in a hairnet. His bollock
was like the hairnet, or the ones that you put your washing in the washing machine. His bollocks was in a sack.
Yeah. He was drumming with his legs wide apart and this swinging bollock.
That's it.
In a fucking hairnet.
Yeah, because I think in the end we had to sample something because the bass drum was crap because he couldn't hit it properly.
It was awful, all of it.
We went along about, 2-3 weeks later, sporting the first cut of the album to Doug. But he heard the songs and he just sat there, he was having his hand in his office. He was sort of like looking at each other. He said, what the fuck have you done to my songs? I went, what? What's the matter? What's the matter? They're good, aren't they? He said, oh, fucking hell, you know.
I was almost to bloody tears over it because it was such a disaster.
He nearly had a breakdown over it because we'd absolutely fucked him. We still at that time went on television, played it, thinking that we were the next Duran Duran.
Vision of a new world, another Eden in the southern plain, that's far away from the western wars, and in this
past the point of self-destruction, but we'd come out of it as this fucking Nancy band.
Oh, we'll be open for the chosen few.
It was just so not anti-nowhere.
You sell-out wankers. Why would you do such a heap of trash as that?
But hope and peace will never be gone.
Strange things drugs and money does to you.
We lost it big time. We fucked up, to be honest.
Yeah, that's when we knew it was the end. I met the missus anyway. She came along in '84. We finished the band at '86, really. And that was it. We went off, her and I, getting a life together.
I got a publishing deal, went off and worked on that. And that was the end of it for me.
We hung on in there for a bit. And then we decided about 88, 89, do you know what, should we just call it a day now? And we did a final farewell at Victoria Hall, Southborough.
Stag night, it was probably the best stag night that a person could ever have, really. It was a bloody good gig, wasn't it?
PJ came along, I think he played on there as well.
There was punks there, but then there was bikers there, and there was like, I think some of the band's parents even come and sat in the box upstairs. Rather than go off on a fart, we went off on a fucking bang. You know?
Was it, really? We weren't going to do anything else until Metallica released So What?
So fucking what?
JB phoned up and said, "Oh, they're covering So What?" So what? He said, "Yeah, metal band." I was like, "Fucking what?" He said, "Yeah, but they're really big. You've got to go along and see them. I don't fucking want to see them. Not interested in music anymore."
We thought it was sort of like much ado about nothing, to be honest with you. With hindsight, I mean, it was quite a big deal, wasn't it, really?
I had no idea they'd want me on stage with them. JB said, "I'll drive you up there now. They want you on stage now. You got them out there." So he came screaming up and picked me up. He drove like a lunatic and got us there, but I was shit myself. Half of me was going, "God, it'd be great up on stage." The other one was going, "Fuck off, you old bastard. Get out of here quick as you can. Run."
We'd like someone up here to do some singing for us. His name is Animal.
I sort of, go for it.
How you doing, all right? It's a little number they've just fucked up from us. And they ain't fucking paid me yet, all right? Most I'll get out of this song, all right? It's called So Fucking What? Well, I've been to Hastings and I've been to Brighton. I've been to Metallica too.
They gave me the bug again.
Who cares? Who cares?
Metallica released So What, and suddenly there's a load of money kicking about, and we were being offered big gigs again. we jumped on board and had a second shout at it. It was a bit of fun for a while.
Everybody changes, and I think the band members had their own changes. They had their own jobs, they had their own families. Oh, I can't come tomorrow night, Mrs. is out, I've got to look after kids. There's a million reasons why you can't get 5 blokes in the same room. Obviously, I decided then that the Anti-Nowhere League would be a long mission. Band members would come and go as they want to come and go. But for me personally, it was always ongoing. This is the day of rock circuit, closed door society. It was a struggle, but because I liked performing punk music, and simple as that, I pushed on with it. Pushed on. Come on, everybody!
Nick, he is the Anti-Nowhere League, really, isn't he?
I think Animal carries the band. I think perhaps if you lose Animal, then you lose the league, but the new lads slot in very well.
There's been a lot of line-up changes over the years. I think the band now, as it is at the moment, is the best it's ever been. There's a chemistry now, real chemistry between everyone in the band, and it can only get better from now on, I think.
It usually starts off the people that are roadies first. That's usually the thing. You're roadie with us for a long time. A bit like if you're going to run Prospect for a bike gang.
I was driving, lugging gear. I was helping out. It was so cool to be like part of it. Even with Winston taking the piss out of you all the time, it's quite funny.
Bars have been with us forever. We tried having people out of town. It don't work. Tommy's Wise people have a certain breed. Tommy was a prime example of this. He roaded with us for years, and now he's taken over main guitar. He's an amazing guitarist. He's such a rock god. He is. He doesn't realise it, but he is fucking amazing.
I got involved with the band it was actually through a friend of mine. He was working for the band as road crew. And then, basically they needed someone else who sort of knew what they were doing with guitars and drums, and he just asked me if I wanted to come away for a weekend, and that was it, really. I was road crew for 4 years, and then ended up joining as guitarist.
Sammy is a very good friend of Tommy's. They played in smaller bands in the past. Tunbridge Wells guy, he's a bit of a crazy guy, Sammy. He fits in quite nicely.
I first got involved with the league through Tom. We were teenagers together, basically. Went to different schools, but used to ride BMX bikes when we were kids. Obviously, he was roadieing for the league for years and years and years. I think probably the most civil conversation I've ever had with Nick was the day he asked me to join the band when we were down the pub with his wife. And I think other than that, I don't think he said fucking once. It's like a full stop to him.
Punctuation.
To me, I go on stage, no different than I'm going into a bare knuckle fight. It's no difference. It's me versus them, and there's the last man standing. If you're going to fight, you're going to go down or you're going to stand up. It's the same attitude.
He's still as angry as he ever was.
What's he not angry about? Nick is angry about absolutely everything.
Yeah.
But then that's what gives him his edge over everyone else, is because he is so wound up.
Yeah. Other car drivers, people on the road,
people riding bicycles.
Anger is dope, and anger is good fun. Anger is warm, it's empowering, it's like a good curry, it has a glow to it. Few things are as satisfying as a towering road.
He dragged a fan on stage last week and punched him because he threw a beer at him. And at 62, he's still beating people up in front of everyone else. It was great fun.
After going to an anti-Noah League gig, I just feel really energised. It just makes me walk away pleased and smiling. I'm just sort of buzzing around like a 5-year-old at Christmas time. This is the sort of band I'm after. This is the sort of heaviness I'm interested in. It feels like someone's just basically smashing my face, and it sort of just goes like that. It just sort of sets me off. I'm just like, yeah, this is brilliant, this is awesome, and it's making me do the typical thing like Vivian from the Young Ones, like pogoing about and just doing stuff that just makes me look like a complete idiot. But I know for a fact this is my world, I don't care.
Most of the time you can't go around smashing plates and punching people in the face, but at an anti-Noah League show you can.
I hate people!
They're boxed in this little cage in life, and when they come to an anti-Noah League show, it's their chance to jump out and punch someone in the face, and then they can go back to being normal people after.
Yeah, I think that at the garage show, someone actually got knocked out.
Yeah, probably.
I hate people. I hate everyone. My life is weird.
Well, the Anti-Nowhere League exists on the planet to do and say that which should not be done or said. And if anything that they do say or sing is acceptable, that's it for them.
We've always believed in freedom of speech. That's what punk music's about. To keep it real, brothers and sisters. Don't be dictated to what you can and you cannot say. We'll feel a little bit like me, in the way that we know we are the last cowboys.
When we wrote songs in the past, So What, I Hate People, Animal, Child Molester, you know, I'm Your Next Door Neighbour, you know, all these songs, it was a bit of fun. Obviously now we're into this new age where probably old people like me shouldn't be anyway. You get into trouble, you're not allowed to say it anymore. The day the world turned gay, to me, was just funny, you know, and it always will be.
You know what, if you start burying things and saying you can't do this, you drive it underground. And as soon as you drive it underground, there's no opportunity to say you are wrong because.
I stand beside the wall, but now I stand alone. I stand convicted of a crime I do not know. You are the judge, you are the jury. Not all my life has been the same old story.
He's got the front to say it. You know, I don't care, I'll say it. I'll wear glasses and I'll say it. You know, does he mean it? No.
Fucking Anti-Nowhere League, how deep do you want to go? Really spin.
The appeal to young people with the league is it's two fingers to the establishment, and it's purely simple that's what it is.
So my dad got it into me, and then I introduced it to Geordie, and ever since
I've just loved him.
we brought my mum and dad back again to see them again, because you've just got to see them.
Follow them around the country when I can, 2 or 3 gigs a year, particularly if they're in London, and I love it. God bless the league.
We are the league!
I'm an uneducated cunt from Red Hill, which is just down the road. You know, it's like to be able to get out of that and to move into a different place it's like walking on water. And they managed it, and for that, they should be applauded.
Tunbridge Wells people spend their life saying, I'm going to leave this town. And then when you leave it, you suddenly say, I want to come back.
What keeps me in Tunbridge Wells? Well, this is a question we all ask ourselves all the time, because it's an awful place to be.
We'd be away on tour, you know, we'd be like, you know, doing American and Canadian tour or whatever. But you couldn't wait to get back to Tunbridge Wells. It was like a magnet to draw you back all the time. You know, it's just something, I suppose it's home, isn't it, really, you know?
I'm still here, I own the place. I'm only kidding. I own half of it.
I'm still here. I've moved out a couple of times. I'm back now. I'm home in Pigeon really.
Don't fuck with her! Thank you, brothers and sisters! We salute ya! We salute ya!
We're in the hands of the punters, we always have been, and this is it. Punters will tell you if they want to see you or not, and I think, you know, I'll be the first one to know as soon as they tell me to fuck off. So I will do it all the time until they tell me to fuck off.
Is there anything you do differently?
Yeah, I had sauerkraut and bratwurst in Germany and I didn't like it. That's about the only thing. I didn't like sauerkraut and I didn't like bratwurst sausage, but other than that, everything I've done, I've enjoyed.